Hey everyone. So in addition to the writing tutorial videos I'm doing here on YouTube, I thought it might be good to broaden out the perspective a little bit and show you other points of view. That's why I'm putting together a series of interviews with other comic book writers in the business. They can talk a little bit about their process and tips, just things they've learned along the way as they've been working away in comics. The first one of these interviews that I put together is with Jed Mackay. He's a fellow Canadian. He grew up in Prince Edward Island and now lives in Halifax and is working on a whole series of awesome titles, a lot of them over at Marvel. Things like Black Cat and Daughters of the Dragon. He's put together a really great new take on Moon Knight, and he's also doing Magic the Gathering over at Boom Studios. So Jed and I sat down for about half an hour, just chatted briefly about working in comics and the writing process, and I hope you find it really helpful. How are you doing? How are things?
I'm well. I'm
You
keeping
are
busy.
good. Nice.
Staying relatively healthy.
You have a lot on your plate going right now. What projects that have been announced are you working on right now?
Oh, jeepers! Working on Black Cat, Moon Knight, Magic the Gathering, Death of Doctor Strange, and then kind of bits and bobs here and there as well. So
Nice.
I've got. I got a lot on the plate, but it's a big plate, and I got a big fork. So
Nice.
I'm ready to dig in.
It's good. Yeah, it's this weird thing where I think for a lot of people having a monthly gig in comics, particularly one of the big two, is like really desirable. And then when you have multiple kind of ongoing, cascading, overlapping projects, you suddenly like, oh, this is amazing. Oh God, this buffet, what am I doing? And you never want to, feel. Yeah, you don't want to feel like you're not appreciative of it, but it can be a little intense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of work, but thankfully each project is different enough that I can kind of take a break from one to work on the other. So oh no, go ahead.
Yeah. So do you find in terms of your writing process, are you blocking out particular days, or is it like mornings versus evenings, or is it just whatever is currently on the docket that needs, whatever fires need to be put out? Like how far ahead of the curve are you on that stuff?
It's just kind of catch as catch can for the most part. It obviously what takes priority is going to be what is due,
Sure.
what is needed right away. With Magic, for Boom, I've got hard deadlines. So, this day and this month, I got to have the script in. So that's kind of a pole star as far as that goes. But most of my Marvel stuff, I'm fairly far ahead.
Nice.
So it's not as pressing, given that, I just been grinding on it. Right. So,
right.
There's other stuff that comes up, and there's, short notice kind of stuff. Can you do this in the next couple of weeks or something like that?
Yeah, one shot or things like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. So there's always kind of a certain urgency on those, because how it is with one shots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as my series go, I'm doing pretty well. But it's how it is with writing. You get one bad script, it's like a rotten apple. It takes a week of your time. You got no pages written because you're just like, I can't figure this out. I can't make this work.
Yeah, I can't move through that. So for you, there's sort of two major. Well, before I even get into that, let's sort of roll things back a little bit before all this stuff happened. Sure. You're doing amazing. You've got some really high profile titles. How long had you been sort of plugging away at your own comics or at different aspects of the industry before you feel like you had that breakthrough? Where did that kind of happen? Rather than it being like, how did you break into comics, which can be, where did you feel like you were finally getting that traction for your career in that sense?
So at one point, I feel like I had, quote unquote, made it.
I mean, that's always going to be a variable,
for lack of a better term.
Sure.
Of course. Honestly, it'd probably be the point where I felt comfortable enough to quit my day job.
Yeah.
My first Marvel work was 10 going on 11 years ago. Right. So, it's, when did you quit your job? It would have been 2019, November.
Right. So you were juggling both for
for a while,
9 years. Yeah.
Well, the first 8 years of those 10 years, I did 16 pages. So
Right.
it wasn't terribly difficult to juggle,
Sure.
as it turned out.
Right.
Um,
But what other
but like
comic
once
stuff
I
were you
got,
doing at the start? Like, how did you get that first gig in a sense?
I mean, almost none really. Like I was
Yeah.
making comics for fun with my friend Sheldon, and they brought him on as an artist, and so it was a X-Men non-X-Men team up anthology book.
Nice.
And Sheldon was like, I don't know any of these characters. Like, I don't know who to team up. It's like, here, why don't you come and write? Because we make comics together for fun. And that's how I got my start in comics. So it was my first paying job. It was my first real published comic.
Amazing.
So I just, yeah, it just, I guess, just sort of sidestepped
Right. The
the
typical kind of
self-publishing
process.
portion of the program.
Right. But had
Yeah.
you done other writing in terms of creative
Oh yeah.
writing or,
Yeah.
yeah. So you've got a writing
Yeah. Like
background in that sense.
yeah. Like I mean, I've always been writing. I write comics that we'd make, or I wrote a lot, read a lot of short stories.
Mhm.
There's a period of time when I was like, well, this comics thing isn't really working out. I haven't really got off the ground, and just want to focus on prose. So
Mhm.
like I wrote a novel that no one wanted to publish. I was writing short stories a lot with a writing club that we had
Mhm.
in Halifax, some friends from school. So I mean, I was writing a short story every month and putting them up on my blog, which nobody
That's
read.
cool. No, but that's good though, in terms of output, like just having that
Yeah, absolutely.
regularity and also
No,
having that circle of people to bounce stuff off of as well.
yeah, and honestly, like that more than anything taught me what it meant to be a writer.
Mhm.
Where like, maybe your stuff's not gonna get published, and maybe your stuff's not gonna make you money, but if you want to be a writer, the only thing you have to do is write. Like
Mhm.
it's really easy to call yourself a writer, not write anything. I know I did it for years. Um, but that every month I had that deadline for writing club. So I had to get a story every month. So I refused to turn up without a completed story.
Mhm.
It might not
How
be
long were
perfect.
those typically?
Anywhere from 2 to 10,000 words.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depended what the needs of the story were.
Mhm.
So I would do that while I was teaching, and it was great because for the first time I was writing to a deadline. For the first time I was held accountable
Mhm.
for producing something.
I think that makes a big difference with a lot of people where their own
Oh,
creative
absolutely.
projects, because they're not putting a hard deadline on themselves and there's no one, like you said, no one holding them accountable. You don't feel like it matters. But even just that
Yeah,
small
sure.
circle of people being able to see it, suddenly it has a function, Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I said, I was in school for my BED,
Mhm.
and we were reading YA fiction as part of my English teachables, and I was like, oh, this is actually like pretty, it's good story adventure stuff, but I'm like, it's also not super sophisticated. Like I could write one of these.
Right.
So I got in my head I was going to write a young adult adventure novel, and tell all my friends, I'm like, yeah, I decided I'm going to write a novel. Like I'm gonna sit down, I'm going to write a book. And I ran into a friend I hadn't seen for like about a year. And he's like, oh, yeah, remember last time I saw you, you were talking about this novel. How's it going? I was like, oh, I'm still planning it out. In my head, I'm just like, fuck, I'm still planning it out.
Yeah.
Shit. I was like,
Yeah.
that was when the switch went off. I'm like, man, I'm calling myself a writer, but I'm doing zero writing. So that really taught me a hard lesson about like you gotta do something, you gotta make something.
Right.
Like
And
it
I
doesn't
think
matter.
I think for a lot of people, their creative output, they're afraid that once they put it down on the paper or once they put it up somewhere for people to read, now it can be critiqued. Now it's less than perfect. In their head, it was always
Yeah,
going to be a
absolutely.
great thing, right? And
Yeah,
now
for
all of a
sure.
sudden they have to be, like you said, held accountable for it. And that can be tough. I mean, one of the nice things, it sounds weird to say, but like once you start getting deadlines, once you start being paid for this stuff,
Yeah.
you're like, my filter has to be both quality and getting it done. Like I
Oh,
have to
absolutely.
get this done. There are people relying on me, and
Yeah.
that forces you forward. It pushes you through those I think those fallow periods.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in comics, especially, you have such a team,
Mhm.
and you're that first point, And honestly, the thing is, the amount of work that goes into every part of the job after your part as a writer, it's embarrassing if everyone's waiting for you.
Yes,
Because the guy's
absolutely.
like, like I gotta,
I
you
spend
got an artist
over
that's
a
gonna
day
take.
on a page, for as an artist, and that's what, in their mind, that's what they're thinking, and you're just like, yeah, I should be able to get you something to draw for the current, for crying out
Yeah,
loud.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of my thing. It's like I feel really bad if people are waiting for me to do my job, which is, it's difficult to come up with a compelling and interesting, exciting story and write it down. But at the same time, I can write a script a hell of a lot faster than an artist can draw an issue. So I don't really have an excuse there,
Right.
unless
Right.
it's like some sort of, just like some sort of unforeseen difficulty where it gets to me late and the deadline is like tomorrow or some shit like that. But
so do you remember, you obviously grew up reading comics, I assume, like all of us. Do you remember a moment when the sort of transition of realizing it's not just about the characters, but it's about particular creators that you were following, or particular writers or artists that you were gravitating towards?
Yeah, because like when I grew up and I was started to learn to read on comics, so like Carl Barks and Don Rosa, Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck stuff, Tintin. And then I moved on to like my dad's old comics, because he had like a pile of like, 3 or 4 Rubbermaids in the closet back there.
Nice.
Of, mostly Marvel stuff from, throughout the 70s mostly. And that was kind of my first exposure to that idea, because it was, as you said, it was curated largely based on who was making the books, not who the characters were. And generally the creators that my dad was following were making the best stuff and therefore had the best characters.
Right. Do any of them stand out particularly?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Barry Windsor Smith, Conan.
Yeah, man.
I know that speaks to you.
Yeah, big time.
But yeah, like that Paul Galassi and Doug Manchon, Master Kung Fu.
Nice.
Herb Trimpe, Hulk, which I don't know. Herb Trimpe's gotten a lot of shit over the years, which I think is largely undeserved. And that, like, I loved his Hulk stuff. It's just so good. All the Kirby Fourth World stuff.
Nice.
Also a lot of Kirby Cap, because
really?
Dad loved Kirby Cap. It's great stuff. Nice. I've been using the sound effect from Cap Goes Wild, Zapak, for years now. Is in the first comic script I ever wrote.
That's awesome. It's funny how those little bits work their way into it, or little references or fun things. They're just for your own personal amusement. Like, you got to put them in there. I think there's something really awesome about that those little bits.
I mean, it's an industry where you can indulge yourself to a certain extent. And it's not like, television or film where there's like staggering quantities of money tied up in it. It's comic books. It comes out one month and then it's largely forgotten with the next month when it comes around. So you can have a little fun with it.
Yeah. Awesome. And so as you've kind of made that transition, obviously from reader to making your own stories to finally getting, kind of traction, at Marvel, what aspects of it have surprised you? What aspects of what parts of the business are exactly what you thought they would be versus ones that are wildly different from how they may have looked from the outside?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of the stuff is kind of just what you would assume, like, like what a script looks like, for instance. Like I use Fred Van Lente's script template now.
Me too. Yeah.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's so good. Actually, I think I use it because you had tweeted about it.
Oh, sweet. Nice.
Probably at least. But, aside from kind of the being like a little more sophisticated, a little more clean, a little easier to read, my scripts are the same as they were when I first started writing scripts. Microsoft Word document, panel, dialogue. So the kind of process of doing that hasn't changed. What has changed is an understanding of how that script translates to art. And it wasn't something that I really thought about. And my first full issue was Edge of Spider-Geddon #1. And the script is a mess because there's so much dialogue and there's so many panels per page. And Nick sent it back. It's like, what are you doing with this? How do you expect this to work? There's like 8 fucking panels on this page and there's like 400 words in each panel. I was like, oh, right. And like ever since now, like when I read a comic, I'm automatically counting the panels on a page. Yeah. Because it didn't occur to me at that point in time. I hadn't made enough comics. And it's just not something. And also I was working the comics I made previously with my friend Sheldon, who is wild card, where if I'll write something he doesn't want to draw, he just doesn't draw it.
Oh,
So like
wow.
there's I'm like,
He's
here's seven
self-editing.
panels.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, absolutely. It's like, here's 7 panels. Like, here's 3 panel page. Make them work. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Awesome.
I get
Nice.
it. That's fine. That's fair. So yeah, like that was a big change. Starting to me, a lot of writing for comics, I think, is being able to visualize what you're writing and how it's going to look on the page.
Mhm.
But without practice in that, I wasn't really able to, like, I was able to figure out what it would look like panel by panel, but as a whole, it was
Right.
something that was just lost on me at that point
The
in time.
unit of a
It just,
page.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it just didn't occur to me. And I don't have as much a background as an artist as a lot of other writers do.
Mhm.
But yeah, and other than that, like it's interesting kind of what a full spectrum job it is, like writing a comic book, because you're not just coming up with the story. You're pitching, you're outlining, you're writing the script.
Yeah.
Uh,
Some
you're
cases you're even doing
you're
the solicit text and
yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like, not all editors are going to have the writers do the solicits, but I mean, Tom is, so I'm doing
Mhm.
solicits on Moon Knight,
Yeah.
and that's it. There's an art to that. It's a lot more difficult than you might think. I'm like, all right, I gotta make this exciting, but also with solicits being what they are, they're 2-3 months ahead of time. I don't want to spoil anything.
Exactly.
So like, there's a big reveal. There's a big reveal in this issue, and it echoes through into this issue. But I don't want to say, I don't want to name names. So I'm just like, geez, please.
Yeah. How
So
do I
kind of
keep
like,
this secret, but also make it seem exciting? Yeah, totally.
yeah. So kind of like, you just kind of like lean on really florid early Marvel style, hoo hurrah.
Yep, big time. So would you say there's sort of these two main camps of writers where they, planners and pantsers, right? Like the people who immaculately plan stuff out, and then there's people who kind of, they know overall where they're going, but they want to feel their way through and then do multiple drafts or whatever, the script kind of takes them, which, there's obviously varying degrees of it, but where would you find yourself kind of leaning toward?
I would say I want to be the former, but I'm more likely the latter.
Yeah, you're a
In
pantser?
that, for me, a lot of it happens on the page.
Mhm.
So like, I'll write an outline and say, like, here's the beats, here's the twist, here's the reveal, here's what's happening, but the actual structure of it doesn't often appear until I'm sitting down and writing it, because a lot of the time I have a hard time visualizing sometimes how an issue is going to look in the outline stage, where I'm just like, here's a blurb, here's what happens in this issue, here's what happens in this one, where I like, okay, I just need like an idea, I need to say, here's the general thing that's happening here. How it happens is largely discovered when the writing is happening, and sometimes that can bite you in the ass.
Sure.
But for the most part, I find it works better for me that way, when I'm surprising myself with what's going in the script. Because oftentimes, you'll write something in an outline or like a paragraph or summary, and it sounds great, but when you go to put it on a script,
It doesn't feel right. Yeah.
It's just boring as shit. And you want to zazz it up. You want to cut back and forth. You want to keep people excited and interested. So I think I would like to be a meticulous planner. I just don't know if I have it in me, because I'm more than happy just to chuck everything out the window and say, like, let's start fresh and see what we got here that works better.
Right. And you want to feel your way through it to the finish line.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I don't want to be beholden to my plan if my plan sucks.
Sure.
Or sorry, if my plan is revealed to suck.
Right.
I'm not going into it thinking, wow, this is gonna be terrible. Let's do it.
Yeah, of course. Nice.
But
so what's I know it varies obviously from script to script. Do you have any kind of writing pattern? Do you write every day? Do you have a set page count, or is it just literally today's a writing day, tomorrow's putting out fires, proofing? Is it just whatever needs to get done?
Yeah, I think it varies from day to day.
Yeah.
Often I would try to get I'm like, okay, at least 5 pages a day out. I just not like, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Whereas other days I'll be like, oh, I just wrote an issue today.
Yeah.
I think generally, as long as I keep my feet out of the fire, then I'm like, okay, whatever, we'll just do what works.
Right.
There's situations where stuff just needs to get done, where I'm like, okay, we're getting takeout for dinner because I ain't going to the grocery store because I got to write the script.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't really have a set routine. I don't
You
think
don't
it's
have like
ever.
you don't have a particular time of day you like to write, or a place you like to write, or is it just kind of free form?
I live in a small apartment, Jim.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, some
No, I know.
people, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like I mean, I sit in my chair in the living room and I write. Oftentimes, I think some of my most productive times probably after dinner,
yeah.
um, because at that point everything's done. You know, dinner's cooked. Don't need to go grocery shopping. Dogs been taken out.
Mhm.
All the minutia of the day
Right.
outside of comic books is sorted, so that I can just sit down and write till whenever I
Right. So
run out of steam.
your evenings tend to be more productive, you
Yeah, I
find?
think
Yeah.
so, because I often feel like one of those people who are like, it's like, oh, I've got something to do, something I have to be due, or somewhere I have to be in 2 hours, which means those two hours are going to be completely pointless because
Yeah.
nothing's going to get done because all I can think about is having to go do this thing in 2 hours.
Yeah, my
You
wife and
know?
I figured that out with our travel stuff. You'd book flights later in the day, and you were like, there's no point. We might as well book it first thing in the morning, because
Yeah.
in my head, I'm already heading to the airport. I'm already thinking of all those things I'm going to need to do.
Yeah.
So I might as well get my ass there, because I'm not going to get anything else done beforehand if it's not related directly to getting to the airport. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was when I quit teaching, I still stayed on as coach for the debate team. So like twice a week we'd meet at like, what was it, 3:30.
Mhm.
And it's only a couple blocks away from my house, so I just walk up. But it would end up just totally screwing up my whole day, because all I would think about is like, I would just see the clock getting closer to 3:30.
Right.
And I was like, it's an hour out of my day, but at the same time, it's just messing up all the time that comes before. So eventually I had to tell him, like, listen, I gotta cut it out. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. So you tend to be very, like, focused on this project, kind of all
Yeah.
consuming. Yeah. In those
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah, I think so, because you just need uninterrupted time where that doesn't necessarily have a deadline. Because
Right.
after dinner, I can work till 11 and go to bed. I can work till 2 if I want to.
Right.
I don't have a set time where I need to finish, or a set time when I have to do something else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's often when I find I get a lot of stuff done.
Nice. So, and then you tend to block it out, like, today's Moon Knight day. Like, this is just what's got to get done. That
Yeah,
just
generally.
done. Yeah. You
Yeah, I
don't
usually
tend to
block
flop
it.
between projects the same day if you can help it.
No.
Yeah.
I think I would. I mean, I have, and I
Sure.
think I will again, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's something I would consider a habit.
No, I
Generally.
definitely don't either. I find it really, really hard to switch gears if I'm midway through one thing and then I'm like, oh, even proofing and stuff. Sometimes I'm like, I
Yeah.
know I got to do this, but I was really on a roll with this other thing, or I'm thinking about this other stuff, stuff like the Conan stuff. For me, I find, like, if I get into the Hyborian Age and
Oh yeah.
that particular prose style and that kind of flow and feel, I'm like, I just want to hang here for a while. I don't want to go anywhere else. Like, this is where I want to just hunker down and do the thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, I can switch gears between Marvel books relatively easily, because it's kind of the same thing. But like, going from
Mhm.
Magic to Marvel and Marvel to Magic, it's total shift.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, we're still talking people going to adventures with fantastic powers, but
Sure.
it's still a pretty broadly different genre.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So what kind of, as far as the writing process goes and things like that, what kinds of things have you found really, really helpful, technique wise? Or what elements, like you were talking about, you didn't think about pages previously, you just sort of thought about panel by panel kind of stuff. What
Yeah.
other kinds of bits of advice or things would you wish you had known coming in the door that you found really helpful now, or stuff that you're leaning on now?
I mean, there's stuff I find helpful, and there's stuff that's just sort of part of the way I work.
Mhm.
I'm not someone who, I mean, I have been accused of being someone who overwrites dialogue, but I'm not someone who overwrites a script as
Okay.
far as descriptions go, which could be considered a strength. It could be considered a weakness. I'm not
Mhm.
entirely sure at this point in time. But I generally try to give an artist as much free reign as I can, because generally they're just a lot better at it than I am.
Sure.
Say, here's the panel, here's the people who are in it.
Here's the most
you
important
know,
aspect. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Like a lot of times I'm like, okay, well, here's kind of, characters in profile, close in on this character, something like that.
Hmm.
But generally don't go too deep in on that, other than like, say like, they're banged up, they're
Right,
unhappy, they're
right.
excited. They have certain expression on their face, but trying to get too deep in the weeds on it.
Mm. Do
And
you
like,
find your scripting style changes, you know, when you're working with the same artist over a longer period? Or are you in
oh
closer
yeah, for
contact
sure.
with them?
I mean, and as you work with an artist, you discover the things that they really like to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Like working with Juan Ferreira on this Infinite Fury stuff. Uh, I basically realized that he likes to do big, crazy layouts that I'm never going to think of. So I'm like, well, listen, here's 2 pages. Do a car chase.
Nice.
I'll write some dialogue and we'll slot it in where it should go, or
Right,
like
right.
captions or something like that. And it just it goes to town, and it's a work of art. Does it like he's good at this? He doesn't need me to tell him what to do,
Sure.
outside of like when I'm just trying to like block out how the story's going to work with the pacing.
Hmm.
But for the elements of spectacle like that, like no one needs me to tell them how to do their job.
Right, right.
Um, and of course, different projects can have different requirements as far as that go. So yeah, it's working with every collaboration is going to be different. You just kind of try to find what is a strength in the people you work with, and how can you facilitate that strength being used.
Right.
And I mean, really a really simple thing, but I feel like I didn't really think about till a little later in my career, is just ask your artists what they like to draw.
Right. It seems so
uh,
simple and
I
obvious.
know,
Yeah,
like it wasn't
yeah.
until I actually did it, I'm like, man, I should have been doing this all along.
I
Like
think it's this weird thing where you feel almost uptight, like, well, you don't want to, I'm the writer, like I'm supposed to, this is my silo and you're in your silo. And then you're like, no, 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 this needs to be,
yeah,
we're making this thing. And a bad script hurts the final product, and terrible art
yeah,
that's inappropriate isn't going to fit. So you need
yeah,
to figure that stuff out. You need to get on the horn or email back and forth and just feel comfortable in that.
yeah, for
That
sure.
ramping up period on a new project, I find with a new artist in particular, you're just like, I want to know what you're all about. I want to see what you're capable of doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where you're happy.
And it's a really exciting, interesting time. Like we started Moon Knight, I'd never seen anything of Alessandro's work before. Like he's a very new artist, and this
Mhm.
is like his biggest job. So it's really interesting to see. Here's the things he's really excels at. Here's the stuff he does like a really good job at in a way that other people don't. And as you learn these things, you're like, okay, well, I got to put more of that in the script.
Right.
I gotta make sure that there are opportunities for these strengths to shine, because that's how you're going to get your best work.
Yep. Absolutely. Cool, man. That's it's good to hear. I'm glad I'm so thrilled to see your career taking off and the types of projects you're
No, thank you.
getting. No, it's awesome. It's I love the work. I love, when I read Daughters of the Dragon, I remember
Yeah.
freaking out about it and just being like, man, this book, it came out of nowhere and it just knocked me on my ass. I just thought it was so sharp and so
Oh, thank
fun.
you.
And it had all the right beats. And it was like when you were announced on Black Cat, I'm like, well, of course. Like that just,
I
you
mean,
know,
that's where it
thematically
came
it all
from.
seemed to, yeah, it all seemed to fit into that really cool kind of action space and unexpected little, the quips and the yeah, just all of it came together so well for you. And I'm so
Oh,
glad
thank
that it
you.
has continued to roll on and on and on.
Yeah,
So
I got the call for Black Cat where Nick was like, I love Daughters of the Dragon, and we did it. They won't let me do a Daughters of the Dragon series, but we're doing a Black Cat series, so just do that, but with this
yeah.
character.
And
And I
it
was
was
like, all
it
right,
was such a
cool,
great fit too,
fantastic.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I'm glad that really became a springboard for so much more cool stuff in
yeah,
that vein for you.
yeah. We're
Awesome, man.
very, very fortunate with Black Cat's response. So
Awesome. I'm so pleased about it. So if people want to track down more of your stuff, obviously the books themselves, where
yes,
can they
sir.
find you? And
Uh,
what should they be on the lookout for?
yeah. So my sort of sole social media source is Twitter. No, you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Jed Mackay. I'm usually talking about whatever's coming out. So, but yeah, no, we got Moon Knight's just started. Black Cat's coming out this week. Got Magic coming out. beginning early August. Again, match number 5. It's going to be a big issue, big reveal.
Awesome.
Avengers Mech Strike also kind of this week. That one's finally finishing up. Yeah, that's what's going on. Death of Doctor Strange starting this fall. So if you like Doctor Strange, I got bad news for you.
There's a good slate. There's a good
Yeah.
slate of stuff, and an exciting slate as well, man. I look forward to seeing more. I look forward to finally, hopefully getting to some in-person conventions and being able to toast your success.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, we'll see what 2022 brings. That's
right.
I think that'll be the earliest I'll be leaving this whole area.
Sure, that totally makes sense. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. And
happy to
I'm
chat.
sure other people love to hear it as well. And stay in touch.